Hello, Bruce Solomon here, the owner of California Gold Connection, and I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to let me share with you how we drastically differ and can pay 2 to 3 times the industry standard for your dental scrap. And yes, I understand a lot of you have been selling to the same entities for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You've been selling to the same people. But if I can give you 2 to 3 times more for that scrap, wouldn't it be worth a listen? I think so. So we're going to discuss the 4 typical ways you process your dental scrap. And I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible to keep this video as short as possible, but I want to give you good information. So here we go. Number 1, you mail it into a large refiner. Number 2, you sell it to mobile rep that comes around your office in person. Number 3, you send it to your lab for payment and or material trade. Or number 4, you donate it. Those are the 4 typical ways most of you are using to process your dental scrap, okay? So let's look at these individually and see what's really going on there, and then you're gonna really start to see quickly how I can start paying so much more, and it's very easy for me to beat the competition. So number 1, you mail it into a large refiner. Well, folks, when you look at their websites, they look great. They tell you they're gonna get your alloy, they're gonna do a fire assay, check for every single alloy, and they're going to pay you accordingly, right? However, folks, you have no idea what you're sending in, and that's a known in the industry, okay? So what they'll also tell you is if you're unhappy with your quote, they'll be glad to mail your scrap back to you. Well, you don't get it the same way you sent it, folks. What they told you is they're going to do a fire assay. In order to do that, they have to melt your scrap down into a little bar. And when they do that, they take a pin sample and they x-ray that and they analyze the alloy, all right? Well, that works great. However, if you request your material back because you're unhappy with your quote, which I've yet to meet a dentist that has been 100% happy with the quotes they're getting from their big mail-in refiners, okay? You may be one of them, but I haven't met you yet. So if you're unhappy and they mail your scrap back to you, it's in a melted blob, folks. You have no way of verifying if that's even dental scrap at all, what's in it, where it came from, and you're certainly not going to be able to sell it to a conventional buyer that comes around, okay? It's basically a useless paperweight at that point, okay? So that's how mailing it in can drastically hurt you, is the payouts are typically dismal, and you have very little recourse, all right? So what I tell you is if you do that, just take the check and run and just don't make that same mistake twice, okay? Number 2, you sell it to a mobile rep that comes around to your office. A little more comfortable, the guy's there in person or the gal, they pay you in cash, sounds great. However, let's just stop for a second and look at what's going on. For one, most of those people work for a big refiner. So you're paying for their salary, their travel expenses, their hotels, their food, etc., right? That's all coming out of your scrap. Okay, yeah, well, that's kind of how business works, right? Okay, well, then what happens? Then you hand them your container of scrap. Your better buyers will take the yellow and the white alloys and separate them and pay you more for the yellow. Your not so good ones will keep it all together and just pay you accordingly. However, have you ever asked yourself, how do they know what they're buying with all those PFMs and teeth and amalgam and epoxies and all that stuff still attached? How do they can't accurately weigh the alloys, right? They can't accurately test them. They certainly can't test them. So how do they know what they're getting? Well, the fact of the matter is, folks, they don't. And in order to cover themselves, while you may have a value here, they use the lowest common denominator they have and calculate the value from that. They know this number, they always win. And not just a little bit. Generally, they're coming out way ahead of you, all right? And guess what, folks? If you are that low common denominator, okay, you're doing okay, potentially. But however, for the majority of you out there, that's up here in this range, you're taking a huge hit and getting paid very little for your scrap. Well, that's how I can pay 2 to 3 times more. I've got all this room to do so. I could beat them blindfold. It's that easy, all right? So that's what you got to think about, is when you're selling to that mobile rep, they have no idea what they're really getting, so they're using a low calculated value, all right? Number 3, you send it into your lab for payment and or material trade. Sounds logical, right? You're already working with them, it sounds easy. Well, guess what? Who do you think they sell to? Yeah, me. Most of them don't reuse that stuff. I don't even know if it's legal to do so. Most of them are just selling it to me or a guy like me. So what have you done in that instance? You got me, and you've got you, and you just sold it to a middleman and taken out all this profit. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You might be able to buy 2 to 3 times more materials than you got in trade, all right? I know it sounds easy and logical just to trade that way, but why not get more for your money? You're taking a huge hit. All right, so that's the donate, or the send it to your lab part. Number 4, donating it. Very noble cause. However, if you look at the fine print, you get about this much. I don't even know if I can see through there. That actually goes to the end goal, right? Unfortunately, that seems to be the way a lot of donating works, is by the time it gets to the end entity, it's about a fraction, right? But at least you're getting something out there, it feels good, you're doing a little bit of something good, right? Well, great. However, if you'd like to get your money to go a lot further than that and get a lot more money, the lion's share of it, into the hands of the needs you're interested in, sell your scrap to me, let me get you paid way up here for it, then you could take all that money and put it into a local cause, a cause abroad of your choosing, and still you can still donate it. You'll just have a ton more dollars to donate and get to the end process, right? So that's the 4 typical ways you are using to process your dental scrap. So how do we here, I'm one guy, actually drastically differ than the industry standard? Well, if I come to your office in person, in California typically, I literally clean all your scrap down to bare metal, on site, test every single piece of it, and pay you accordingly. I know exactly what it weighs, I know exactly what I'm getting, so no guesswork for me. All this value, wherever you land in that scheme, I can pay you there. I can pay you accordingly. I've got all this room to beat my competition. Like I said, I could do it blindfolded. It's very easy. I'm not guessing, I know what I'm buying, all right? It's pretty much common sense. If you are abroad, which I get clients that mail to me from all over the nation and even all over the world, I do the same exact process. I clean and test every piece. I email you, call you, text you, whatever your preference is, a quote. If you're happy, I send you a paid cashier's check, or I can pay you through PayPal, whatever your preference is. However, how I differ drastically, and the happy medium I've carved out, is if for some reason you did want your scrap mailed back to you, I do so at my expense. Why would I do that? Well, I know I pay more than anybody, and I've yet to ever have to mail the scrap back. So it's not going to be a big hit to me, right? You may be the first, could happen. And when you receive it back, if that had to happen, you would at least get back recognizable dental scrap still in its crowns and bridges and etc. form. Yeah, maybe a little beat up, maybe, and it's clean, it has none of that excess stuff on it, but at least it's recognizable dental scrap, and it can still be consoled to a conventional buyer. All right, we don't melt it down to do this. Okay, so that's how I've carved out a niche that allows me to maximize my payout to you, be the most fair to you, and it's a little more tedious on my end, but I get lifelong clients that way, right? So why not? So that's how I drastically differ from the competition. Just so you know, I just recently got married. I've gained a wife and 3 children, and I'm extremely blessed. I'm looking to get off the road as much as possible and stay here locally. So I'm encouraging most of you to mail it in if you can. And that will allow me to be home with my children. I am the owner of California Gold Connection. However, the Lord is the CEO of California Gold Connection. The majority of the profits we get outside of our living expenses go to ministry in one form or fashion. That's our effort. That's our number 1 priority. So for those of you that have already sold to me or plan on selling to me, I thank you very much for your business. It's an extreme blessing, and we get to forward that on to the causes that the Lord brings to us. All right. Thank you very much again for taking this a few minutes. I look forward to doing business with you. God bless, and you have a great day. Bye-bye.